Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a jaw-dropping $7 billion mega engineering project. It's a massive infrastructure marvel built by China to bypass what is honestly one of the world's most dangerous geographical choke points. And you know, this isn't just about moving oil around, it's a huge story about geography, extreme engineering, and the absolute lengths a nation will go to just to secure its own survival and economic future. So, let's get into it.
To figure out why this massive undertaking even exists, we really have to start with a truly staggering number. China is the world's largest importer of crude oil, pulling in more than 10 million barrels every single day. Just to put that into perspective for you, that is enough oil to fill hundreds of Olympic-sized swimming pools every 24 hours, just to keep the country's lights on and engines running. The vast majority of this comes all the way from the Middle East and Africa. It's literally the lifeblood powering China's booming industries, its sprawling cities, and its entire domestic economy. But obviously, all that oil doesn't just magically teleport there. It has to travel thousands of kilometers by sea.
Now, the terrifying contrast is right here in the geography. Historically, close to 80% of that massive 10 million barrel daily volume had to squeeze through a single place known as the Strait of Malacca. At its narrowest point, this absolutely vital maritime passage is just 2.7 kilometers wide. Imagine that, almost an entire nation's energy supply bottlenecked through a waterway roughly the length of a standard commercial airport runway. It's a geographical tightrope for sure.
This creates a profound vulnerability that geopolitical analysts famously call the Malacca dilemma. The dilemma is simple, but it's severe. Basically, a single naval blockade, a regional conflict, or heck, even just a major maritime accident in this narrow strait could instantly cripple the Chinese economy. And this matters to all of us, right? Because if a bottleneck happens there, the ripple effects hit global supply chains instantly, impacting the price and availability of almost everything we buy. To make matters even more complicated, China doesn't actually control this route. It sits squarely between Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia, right in a region heavily monitored by competing naval powers.
So, how do you solve a maritime dilemma of this magnitude? Well, you stop relying on the sea. Instead of taking the long, super vulnerable ocean path, they mapped out a much shorter, direct inland workaround. The audacious new plan was to park the ships much earlier, unloading on the western coast of Myanmar and completely bypassing the congested waters of Southeast Asia. The result of that highly ambitious plan is a sprawling $7 billion pipeline system. But look, this wasn't just a quick geopolitical fix. It took the might of the China National Petroleum Corporation, which is one of the world's largest state-owned energy giants, committing massive amounts of capital to physically rewrite the map of global energy trade. Pushing a project of this massive scale requires a totally new way of thinking about national security. They literally had to turn incredibly remote terrain into a bustling industrial artery. And the sheer scale of what they built is simply breathtaking. Starting right at the deepwater Kayukpu port on the Bay of Bengal, the pipeline system stretches 770 kilometers across Myanmar alone. Once it crosses the border and actually plugs into China's internal network, the total system runs well over 2,500 kilometers. Just think about that. That's roughly equivalent to laying a continuous steel pipe all the way from New York City to Denver, Colorado, feeding directly into refineries and distribution hubs deep inside China's Yunnan province.
The actual mechanics of this monumental bypass work seamlessly. Step 1. Massive oil tankers from the Middle East and Africa end their journey early, unloading right at Myanmar's western coast into these massive storage facilities. Step 2. Instead of sluggish oil tankers taking weeks to navigate treacherous oceans, that energy is rapidly pumped overland through a system of parallel pipes. And then, Step 3. It feeds straight into China's internal grid. Boom! The Strait of Malacca is completely removed from the equation.
Now, the volume being moved through these two parallel systems is incredibly impressive. The crude oil pipeline, which officially became operational in 2017, moves roughly 440,000 barrels per day. That's more than enough to supply a massive industrial region entirely on its own. Sitting right next to it is a natural gas pipeline, active since 2013, pushing 12 billion cubic meters a year. Plus, it functions as a sort of win-win geopolitical handshake. Myanmar earns highly valuable transit fees, gains brand new roads, and sees major infrastructure development around their coastal ports. But it's really hard to overstate just how difficult this was to pull off. Laying this pipe meant engineering the impossible. I mean, workers literally had to carve new access roads through dense, remote forests just to bring heavy equipment in. Imagine the sheer power and precision needed to construct specialized pumping stations, installing highly sensitive constant pressure monitoring systems, all just to push millions of gallons of heavy liquid and volatile gas up and over extreme mountain ranges without a single failure. It's an absolute triumph of modern engineering.
But wait, here is the major twist to all of this. Despite that huge $7 billion price tag, all the incredible engineering triumphs, and that massive 2,500-kilometer distance, this specific pipeline handles less than 5% of China's total oil demand. Yeah, you heard that right. Over 95% of their imports are still out there on the water, with the vast majority still sailing right through that vulnerable Strait of Malacca. Which leads us to the fascinating reality of the situation. This pipeline does not replace the Strait of Malacca at all. It was never actually meant to. Instead, it acts as a critical safety valve. In the high-stakes world of energy security, having an alternative route, even if it only handles a fraction of your needs, is infinitely better than having no alternative at all. But you know how it goes. Solving a problem of this magnitude almost always creates a new one. Let's look at the trade-offs here. Sea routes are notoriously vulnerable to naval blockades and maritime accidents, right? But land pipelines, well, they're entirely fixed assets. You can't just steer a pipe in a different direction if trouble starts. Running a stationary pipeline through remote regions in Myanmar introduces major new risks, like local political instability, the very real threat of sabotage, and incredibly complex maintenance if a leak happens hundreds of miles from modern civilization. This actually reveals the true overarching macro strategy at play here. Myanmar was really just the opening act. This project isn't a standalone fix. It's just one thread in a massive continent-spanning web of overland alternatives. You see, China is actively diversifying its energy risk across almost every single one of its borders, ensuring that a disruption in any one area just won't bring the country down. Let's break down this web region by region.
Starting out to the west, they carved out an immense, completely independent energy corridor stretching across Central Asia. We're talking about lines A, B, and C pushing 55 billion cubic meters of gas from Turkmenistan, routing through Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, straight into China's Xinjiang region. A planned line D will eventually push that number over 80 billion. Add to that a 2,200-kilometer crude oil pipeline directly from Kazakhstan, and you've got a massive influx of energy that is totally immune to any naval threats.
Then they look north. By partnering with Russia, China secured a massive 3,000-kilometer overland connection. The Power of Siberia pipeline officially began flowing in 2019 and is currently ramping up to a staggering capacity of 38 billion cubic meters of gas per year, and they definitely aren't stopping there. Plans for the Power of Siberia 2 are already underway, which could eventually add another 50 billion cubic meters to that northern safety net. Down to the south, under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, they're investing in a bold route connecting the Gwadar port all the way up to Xinjiang. This essentially mirrors the Myanmar strategy, but honestly on hard mode. It spans over 3,000 kilometers and has to cross the notoriously unforgiving Karakora mountain range, where extreme altitudes, freezing temperatures, and rugged, unstable rock make heavy construction an absolute nightmare. Progress is much slower, but the strategic intent to bypass the ocean remains exactly the same.
But what's truly brilliant is what happens once all these international routes cross the border. Inside the country, they all plug into an astonishing domestic network of over 100,000 kilometers of pipelines. To put that into perspective, that is enough piping to wrap around the Earth 2.5 times. This incredible infrastructure allows energy to be dynamically rerouted anywhere based on demand. If more gas arrives from Central Asia, it gets pushed east. If more oil comes from Myanmar, it flows north. It all operates as one massive integrated machine.
Piecing it all together, the ultimate goal was never to abandon the sea entirely. The sea is, and probably always will be, the absolute cheapest and most efficient way to move bulk goods. The real strategy here is all about building a foolproof insurance policy. In global geopolitics, having an insurance policy literally means the difference between a catastrophic global crisis and a mere inconvenience. It ensures that if a crisis ever does hit the Strait of Malacca, a massive web of overland safety nets is already in place, catching the fall and keeping the lights on.
So as we wrap up this explainer, it leaves us with a fascinating question to think about. Do these multi-billion-dollar, continent-spanning overland megaprojects actually protect a country during a major conflict? Or do they simply shift the exact same vulnerabilities from the unpredictable open sea to remote, hard-to-defend land? It's a complex trade-off, and it is actively reshaping our world. Thanks for joining me as we unpack this incredible infrastructure web, and I'll catch you in the next one.